Donald O'Connor talks about his real feelings about Debbie Reynolds. Donald O'Connor was born Donald David Dixon Ronald on August 28, 1925 in Chicago, Illinois. His family worked in shows that traveled around. O'Connor seemed like he was meant to be in show business. His parents were performers who moved from place to place with their act, and little Donald grew up around performances his whole life. Something sad happened when he was young. Several of his brothers and sisters died when they were still kids. But even though bad things happened, he learned to be strong and had lots of energy that people would remember him for later when he was on TV and in movies. O'Connor started making movies when he was still a kid. When he was 11 years old, he was in his first movie. During the 1930s and 1940s, he quickly became known as one of Universal Studios' best actors they could count on. He made people remember him by playing the young friend in movies with big stars like Bing Crosby and Peggy Ryan. When he was a teenager, he was often picked to be in happy musicals and funny movies, where his nice personality and fast dancing made people love watching him. His young, handsome face and easygoing personality helped him go from being a kid actor to a leading man in a way that very few other people could do. One of the first things that made him famous was when he played a role in a bunch of musical comedies with Gloria, Jean and Peggy Ryan. His lively energy and funny timing helped make him a star that the movie studios could trust. But it was in the 1950s that Donald O'Connor became the most famous he would ever be. His performance in Singing in the Rain in 1952 with Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds is still one of the best parts of Hollywood's golden time of musicals. In this amazing movie, O'Connor showed off his incredible physical comedy and dancing skills in the now famous number, Make 'Em Laugh. The dance routine mixed silly comedy with amazing athletic moves, and it was so hard that he had to stay in bed for days afterward to feel better. But it became one of the most famous scenes in movie history, making O'Connor known as a master entertainer. Besides his musical work, O'Connor showed he could do different kinds of acting too. He starred in the popular Francis the Talking Mule movie series, where he played the likable soldier Peter Sterling who talked to a funny, smart-talking mule. Even though O'Connor later said he had mixed feelings about being known so much for the mule movies, they were really popular with people who watched them and helped make him a name that everyone knew. His ability to switch easily from silly comedy to sweet musical numbers made him special compared to other actors of his time. Besides movies, Donald O'Connor was also successful on television and on stage. He had his own variety show called The Donald O'Connor Show in the 1950s, and appeared as a guest on many programs from talk shows to comedy specials. He performed in Las Vegas, Broadway shows, and on stages around the world, proving that people loved him not just in movies. His work won him awards, including a Primetime Emmy Award in 1954 for Best Male Star of a Regular Series. He even hosted the Academy Awards in 1954, showing even more how versatile and charming he was. Even when the time of classic musicals ended, O'Connor's legacy kept shining. He got new fans with TV appearances and occasional movie roles, including in Out to Sea in 1997, with Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau, showing that his funny timing and likability never went away. People recognized his contributions with many Lifetime Achievement Awards, and he was often asked to share his memories of Hollywood's golden age in interviews and looking back shows. As the years went by, O'Connor continued to be celebrated for his amazing contributions to the arts. He earned many awards and honors, including an Emmy Award for hosting the Colgate Comedy Hour. And in 2003, just a year before he died, he was honored with a Career Achievement Award from the American Film Institute. His later years were marked by thinking back and being grateful as he recognized the joy he had found in bringing laughter and music into the lives of countless people around the world. Donald O'Connor's personal life was as eventful and complicated as his career in entertainment, and much of it was about his 2 marriages and the family he built over the years. He was married twice and became the father of 4 children, each of whom represented an important part of his journey outside the bright lights of Hollywood. His first marriage happened in 1944 when he was just 18 years old. a time when his career as a performer was still starting, but already showing signs of great promise. He married Gwendolyn Carter, who was 2 years older than him at age 20. The couple's decision to get married in Tijuana, Mexico, was like the quick and romantic choices that young couples often make, especially in the high-pressure world of the entertainment business. Even though they were young, the marriage was a serious promise, and soon they had their first child together, a daughter named Donna. For O'Connor, becoming a father at such a young age brought both happiness and responsibility, and it added something new to his life that was already filled with the demands of a growing career in show business. However, like many Hollywood marriages of that time, the pressures of constant work, long times away from home, and the challenges of personal differences eventually caused problems. After 10 years together, O'Connor and Carter got divorced in 1954, ending his first marriage, but leaving behind the lasting bond of their daughter, Donna. 2 years after his divorce, O'Connor found love again. On October 11, 1956, he married actress Gloria Noble, who would become his lifelong companion and partner. Their marriage turned out to be very lasting, going on for nearly half a century until O'Connor's death in 2003. With Gloria, O'Connor made his family bigger, and together they raised 3 more children: Alice, Fred, and Kevin. The family eventually settled in Thousand Oaks, California, where they built a stable and loving home away from the constant spotlight. Unlike his first shorter marriage, O'Connor's union with Gloria was marked by stability, mutual devotion, and remarkable longevity lasting 47 years. Their marriage survived the ups and downs of his career, his health struggles, and the changing world of Hollywood, making it one of the strongest relationships in the entertainment world. Gloria stood by O'Connor during his successes and his more difficult times, giving him the kind of support and grounding that many performers had trouble finding. When Donald O'Connor thought back on his long career in Hollywood, filled with dazzling performances in movies, television, and on stage, one of the names that always came up with warmth and admiration was Debbie Reynolds. The two had worked together during one of the golden periods of MGM musicals, and O'Connor never held back from saying how deeply he respected and loved her, both as a performer and as a person. In interviews throughout his life, he often spoke honestly about Reynolds, sharing insights into the qualities that made her stand out in a business full of talent. His words showed more than just professional admiration. They captured the real fondness and friendship that developed between two people who shared the stage lights during a legendary time. "She was one of the hardest working women I ever met," O'Connor once said, thinking about the countless hours Reynolds spent practicing and making her craft better. At the time of Singing in the Rain, Debbie was still quite young and relatively new to the tough world of big-budget musicals. Yet O'Connor was amazed by her determination. "She had no dance experience when she started," he explained, "but she worked herself to exhaustion to keep up with Gene and me. I respected her so much for that." Those comments, said with both admiration and understanding, showed the almost superhuman effort Reynolds put into a movie that would go on to become a cinema masterpiece. O'Connor recognized that her determination not only earned her a place beside two experienced performers, but also helped make her one of the great screen icons of that time. Beyond her professional strength, O'Connor spoke warmly about Reynolds' personality. "Debbie was just delightful," he remembered with a smile. "She was funny, she was charming, and she could light up a room. People adored her, and I was one of them." His memories painted a picture of a woman who, despite the pressures of Hollywood and the tough demands of her roles, never lost the spark of humor and warmth that made audiences love her. To O'Connor, she wasn't just a co-star who did a good performance. She was a friend who brought laughter and friendship to the set, helping to make the intensity of long filming schedules easier. O'Connor often pointed out that Reynolds had a strength that deeply impressed him. "She went through so much in her personal life," he once thought back, "and yet she always managed to smile, to laugh, and to move forward. That takes real strength." These comments showed his recognition of the challenges she faced behind the glamorous Hollywood front. From demanding studio contracts to personal heartbreaks, O'Connor admired that Reynolds never let those struggles break her spirit. Instead, She put her energy into her work and continued to bring joy to audiences worldwide. The love O'Connor felt for Reynolds was not only professional, but also deeply personal. "Debbie was like family to me," he admitted. "We shared a bond that only people who've been through the trenches of show business can really understand." His words hinted at the unique friendship that forms between co-stars who experience the highs and lows of Hollywood together. To O'Connor, Reynolds was not simply a colleague, but someone who had stood beside him during important moments of his career, someone whose friendship and dedication had left a lasting impression on his heart. Even in later years, long after the spotlight of classic musicals had dimmed, O'Connor's comments about Reynolds carried an unmistakable tenderness. "She was one of a kind," he said in one of his final interviews. "There'll never be another Debbie Reynolds." For O'Connor, who had danced, laughed, and shared countless hours of work with her, Reynolds represented the best of what Hollywood had to offer. Talent mixed with humanity, glamour mixed with determination, and fame anchored by being real. His words served not only as a personal testimony, but also as a heartfelt tribute to a woman who had become a symbol of strength and charm in American entertainment. Through Donald O'Connor's thoughts, one comes to see Debbie Reynolds, not just as the shining star remembered on screen, but as the woman she was behind the scenes, hardworking, strong, kind, and beloved. His admiration lit up the essence of their friendship, reminding audiences that behind the sparkles and choreographed numbers were real people who cared for one another. In sharing his true feelings, O'Connor left a legacy not only of his own brilliance, but also of the respect and love he felt for one of Hollywood's brightest lights. Donald O'Connor's later years were marked by a number of serious health problems that showed both the physical toll of his long and hard career in show business and the inevitable wear of getting older. In 1990, after decades of performing in physically demanding roles, many of which required him to dance, leap, tumble, and keep up an energy level that few entertainers could maintain, O'Connor had a major medical procedure, a quadruple heart bypass surgery. This surgery was not a small operation, but a life-saving procedure meant to restore proper blood flow to his heart. For someone who had spent much of his professional life celebrated for his boundless energy and seemingly endless stamina, the need for such a serious procedure was a sobering reminder that he wouldn't live forever. The surgery itself was a difficult process, one that had risks, but O'Connor's strength and determination to keep living for his family and his fans allowed him to pull through and recover. His successful survival of the operation showed his strong willpower, but it also marked the beginning of a more fragile period in his life, in which health would become a central and returning challenge. Nearly 10 years later, in January of 1999, O'Connor once again faced a life-threatening medical crisis when he got pleural pneumonia, a particularly severe and dangerous form of pneumonia in which infection and swelling affect the lining of the lungs and chest cavity. For a man in his 70s with a history of heart problems, this illness was extremely dangerous, and there were moments when it seemed he would not survive. The experience was scary not only for O'Connor himself, who had always been proud of his ability to bounce back from hard times, but also for his family, friends, and fans who had watched him battle so bravely before. Reports at the time said that he nearly died from the illness, and his recovery required tremendous medical care, patience, and inner strength. That O'Connor survived this ordeal spoke volumes about his enduring strength and his refusal to give up even when faced with scary odds. His struggle with pneumonia became another chapter in the long story of his remarkable life. A man who had lived through the hard work of vaudeville, the golden age of Hollywood musicals, and the physical demands of constant performance, now battling illnesses with the same determination that had once carried him across the screen in unforgettable song and dance numbers. Ultimately, however, Donald O'Connor's health challenges caught up with him. On September 27, 2003, at the age of 78, he passed away from complications of heart failure. The news of his death saddened generations of fans who had grown up watching his dazzling performances in films such as Singing in the Rain, where his unmatched comedic timing and athletic dancing had secured him a permanent place in cinema history. His passing happened at the Motion Picture and Television Country House and Hospital in Woodland Hills, California, a place dedicated to caring for members of the entertainment industry in their later years. The location of his final days was fitting in a way. It was a place built for those who had dedicated their lives to the craft of performance, a sanctuary where the men and women who had entertained millions could find peace, comfort, and dignity at the end of their journeys. For O'Connor, who had been part of Hollywood since childhood, the Motion Picture and Television Country House and Hospital symbolized a kind of closing of the circle. He had begun as a boy entertainer in the studios and stages of the 1930s, and finished his remarkable life among the very community that had defined his identity.